Absolutely. My mom, did I love music from the start? Yes. My mom was the pianist at church growing up. So I started playing drums and piano at the age of 6 or 7. By the time I was like 9 years old, I was already playing the drums on a regular basis in church, at my church at the time. And then as far as with the DJing, I started DJing in 1990. I was watching the movie Beach Street, fell in love with the character who was a DJ. And for Christmas, I told my dad I wanted to set up turntables, and that's all I got, and that was, in 1990. So, I've always had music in my bloodline from, growing up in church and playing the piano and drums to becoming a DJ at the age of 10. And, I've been DJing, literally since the age of 10. This is all I've done all my life. I've dedicated my life at an early age to, to music. Growing up in East Baltimore, my childhood, it was rough. I had a lot of hardships from an early age, from losing parents to, getting caught up in the wrong crowd at a young age and growing up on Shady Side in East Baltimore. It wasn't an easy life, but we made it work. What was my childhood like growing up in East Baltimore? That's so funny that you said it was like The Wire, because everybody thinks, they think Baltimore, they think just The Wire, and they think just the bad parts of Baltimore. There are some good parts, but not unfortunately. In my instance, I did grow up in what they call the hood. I grew up in East Baltimore. Shout out to Shady Side if anybody from back in Shady Side is watching this. But it was tough. I had a lot of losses at a young age. Most people who don't know my story, I lost my mom at the age of 10. I lost my dad at the age of 18, and I've been on my own ever since. But the good thing with me is that I've always had some type of family structure, even when my parents weren't there, with my grandmom and with my brothers, that we always still remain a close silver knit. I definitely had a rough childhood. Most children at the age of 18 aren't graduating high school with no parents. I had a lot of reasons that I could have swayed left, but luckily I stayed on that right path, and that's why I'm here today. When did I realize music could become my life and my career? That's rough, because my first party that I DJ'd in my life, I was 10 years old. My cousin Candace, it was her birthday party. And within 20 minutes of me DJing, this is my first time. And you remember, I'm a 10-year-old kid. So this is my first party in life. And within 20 minutes in, my speakers blew. And the crowd started booing, and can you imagine a 10-year-old getting booed, and this is your first time, you've been prepared for this all week, and then your first time I get booed. I mean, I say booed, I mean not like a boo, I mean like it was maybe 50 kids there, but it felt like 5 million people booing me. And I remember I was just, I was distraught. I wanted to give up then. And I remember after the party, my dad came back, was picking me up. And he's like, son, how'd it go? I was like, terrible, Dad. I hate it. I'm done. He's like, what happened? I said, Mom, the amps blew and my speakers blew. He said, and so what'd you do? I said, I didn't know. It blew. I was lost. He said, the fuses probably blew. He said, did you have any fuses on you? I said, no. He said, take it as a lesson learned to always be over-prepared, because you never know what could happen. So now, whenever I went to a party, I would have extra fuses, I would have extra needles, extra headphones, because I never wanted that feeling again. But as far as a career, I got my first weekly club in 1994 in Baltimore, a club called Indigo. It's closed now, but that was my first time getting that weekly residency, as they call it. And I got that because I was already DJing all through, middle school. And at 14, it was my first year in high school, and I was doing a party at the YWCA on Franklin Street in Baltimore. And I remember, the owner of the club came to that party and saw this little 14-year-old kid with, probably 600-700 kids following me to a rec center. And he was like, this guy needs to be in my club, because if he can bring 600 people by himself to a rec center, imagine if I actually promoted him to his kids and friends in the neighborhood and the friends of all over Baltimore at the time. This can be a big money maker. And I got my first residency then. They only paid me $50. Back then I thought it was all right, but I regret that now. I should have got a lot more money, because he probably was making thousands of dollars a night off of me. But that was my first real professional, I would say, gig. That was at 14. Like I say, the DMV stands for DC, Maryland, Virginia. And what do I love and hate about the unique sound? I don't hate anything because I love, like I said, I started off playing the piano and drums, so I come from live instrumentation. Let's start with DC. With DC, the go-go scene is the so-called local music scene here. Of course, there's hip-hop here, but DC is more known for the go-go sound. With the go-go sound, even when I came to DC, like I said, I'm originally from Baltimore, but I've been in DC now for over 10 years, 12 years to be exact. When I first came here, a lot of people was asking me, was it really a hard adjustment? And I said no, because I love the live instruments, and that's something that we didn't have in Baltimore, because in Baltimore our sound was the club music, or the house music as they call it. But with the go-go music, I love the fact that it was live drums and live piano and live guitars, and I just fell in love with that live sound. As far as growing up in Baltimore, you know, club music was all I knew. My first, I'm gonna say, close to 10 years of DJing, that's all I played was club music. That's all I knew. So when I first, you know, had to start playing hip hop and reggae and other genres of music, I was kind of lost, because, you know, I grew up in a city at the time where club music was all the DJ played in the club. Now, of course, years later in Baltimore and DC, they play everything from hip hop to go-go to club to anything. But at one point in time, you know, in these markets, if you were in DC in the, you know, late 80s or 90s, go-go was the hot thing in the club. And in Baltimore, the 90s, it was all club music. There was no hip hop being played in clubs at all. Well, the hip hop was the part you played to calm it down. So I fell in love with both sounds. You know, one, because I grew up with the club music, and with the go-go, you know, the live instruments was something I felt like I grew up with as well. Even though it wasn't go-go music, it was still that same type of format. So I love everything about the DC, Maryland, Virginia / Baltimore, DMV, whatever you want to call it, you know, music scene. My journey from being a club DJ to working on the radio, it's funny. That's a great question, because I never wanted to be a radio DJ, and I still, to this day, even though I've been in radio since 1998. I don't consider myself a radio DJ. I consider myself a party DJ who happens to be on the radio. Where some guys, you know, when you think of some of the big radio greats, from the, you know, Russ Parrs to Tom Joyners to Ricky Smiley's, they're radio jocks. They're not club guys at all. You know, their whole life has been based about being on the radio and doing a great radio show. Where with me, I'm more known, you know, my alias now is the Party Kingpin. I DJ parties 7 nights a week all over the country, and I'm known for being one of the biggest club DJs in the world right now. And, you know, so my journey to going on radio was actually kind of funny, because back in, I want to say it was 1998 is when I first started radio. I was already the big club DJ in Baltimore at the time. And a guy by the name of Frank, shout out to Frank Hott, I remember him saying to me, "Yo, we should try you as a personality, because I've noticed that, you know, you don't just DJ, you talk." And at that time, a lot of DJs didn't talk on the mic. You know, you had a DJ and a host. I became the DJ who was the host. I didn't need a host. I didn't want a host. I came in the club. It was the Quicksilva show. And he was like, "Yo, your personality." And I'm like, "What's the personality?" He said, "A person that talks actually on the mic and people interact with what you're saying." I was like, "But I don't like that. You know, that's corny to me. I just want to DJ with my hands." He's like, "Trust me, when you become a personality and DJ, you'll see your stock rise. You can charge more money." So that's what got my attention, that I can charge more money because now instead of them hiring a host and DJ, you hire Quicksilva. I'm both, and I'm getting both pays. So that was my first thing, my first time in '98 hearing about what a personality was. So I tried out. I went to a studio in his basement, made some air checks. They were terrible. You know, I turned them in at this radio station at the time was ERQ, which is 92Q. I turned him into the program director. He was like, "You got to work on some things." So I remained just a DJ, but I still was the personality on the mic. Fast forward to 2001, a radio station by the name of X1057 came into the market in Baltimore. The program director was Thea Mitchum. I love Thea to death to this day. And I remember her asking me to come over from ERQ to X1057. And when I came there, we had this concert, like a summer jam or something. And we had all these full-time on-air personalities. You know, you had Frank Ski at the time in the morning. You had Little Mo, who was the singer. She was one of the hosts. And I was just the DJ. I wasn't the personality full-time. I was a part-time, you know, personality on weekends, but I was a full-time DJ. And they were doing introductions of all the full-timers. So they introduced all the full-time jocks, and, you know, everybody was, well, you know. But when they announced Quicksilva, This was an arena in Baltimore, sold out, maybe 15, 20,000 people. The crowd erupted. I mean, oh my God, Quicksilva. And the next day, my program director, Thea, came to me and said, there's no way I'm not putting you on the air full time. I said, why? She said, I just noticed you're more popular than my full-time jocks. I have to utilize that. You know, my full-time jocks came out and they clapped. You came out and the crowd stand on their feet, start screaming. So she's like, I want to train you to be a full-time radio personality, and you're going to be a personality within a year. Maybe, and then wasn't even a year, maybe 2 months in, she was like, you know what? I'm going to make you my night jock. I'm going to give you your own. I'm 21 years old at the time. Never done full-time radio in my life. Didn't go to school for radio, any of this thing. And she said, you're going to be a full-time jock starting Monday. I'm going to train you. And that Monday, she put me on. My show was called Hot Boy Radio. And from then on, you know, I just kind of, you know, found my groove. I kind of started, you know, learning certain things that I like and things that work for me. And, you know, from that moment on, I've been a full-time radio personality. I've been on every radio station in DC and Baltimore, every single one, you know, so, you know, it's been a career path, but 2001 was the start where I realized I'm not just a DJ anymore. I'm really a full-fledged personality. Things come easy to Quicksilva? Absolutely not. That's one thing, you know, one motto that I have. If anybody follows Quicksilva, I preach it, I tweet it. Anytime I'm doing a public speaking engagement or at the school, I always start with hard work, dedication, and consistency. Those have been my 3 principles that I've lived by, and I work for. You know, I work hard, I'm dedicated, and I've been consistent over the last 20+ years. And I think that's what really, on top of me having talent, and on top of me learning the importance at a young age of marketing and branding myself, you know, all these things have made Quicksilva Quicksilva. And I remember, you know, me and you were talking off the camera before we started this, and last year, the Source magazine did the top 30 DJs in the country. And then out of the top 10, I made number 9 out of the top 10 DJs worldwide. And I was talking to one of the editors at Source, and he said, I'm looking at this and I'm realizing that you're one of the only guys in the top 10 that's not stamped by an artist. So you have a lot of big name DJs that started and they got their first stamp because they were, you know, this artist DJ, or, you know, they were with this record label. But me, you know, I'm with no record label or anything. Quicksilva really became Quicksilva because I worked so hard, and I never took no for an answer. I've always had a, my team is a little bigger now, but I had a small team. Shout out to Sean Caesar. You know, I've been with Unruly since '96. You know, we've always made sure we marketed Quicksilva as Quicksilva. Where I think a lot of DJs and personalities and entertainers overall, you get so caught in the hype that someone else created. So you become Quicksilva because you play for the Lakers, or because you're Jay-Z's DJ, or because you, whatever the case may be. With me, I never wanted to be known as Quicksilva from such and such, or Quicksilva from the radio station, or Quicksilva from Ciroc, or whatever the case may be. I always wanted to be affiliated with all these things, but kept my own identity. So if you notice, a lot of jocks, they've always, if they introduce themselves as, hey, I'm Quicksilva from the blah, 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 or I'm such and such from the blah, blah, blah. Me, it was always just Quicksilva, and I made sure that my work spoke for itself. So even when I noticed some people were kind of getting that, you know, upper hand on me because they were getting that name and that validation, I was like, I'm going to still get that validation. I'm just going to outwork them. And anybody who knows me, you can't say I don't work. And when I say work, I don't mean 9 to 5. I mean 365, 8 days a week. Quicksilva's on the radio, club, TV, something. Just because I always wanted to say, you know what, if I don't have the upper hand of getting a stamp, I'm going to outwork the crap out of you. So when you're asleep, I'm working. When you're working, I'm working. When you're planning, I'm working. I really work. I became this workhorse. And Sean always say, you know, my manager Sean always say, you're a machine. He's like, you know, a lot of people always ask, when does Quicksilva sleep? I see this guy up at 8 a.m. and he's up till 4 a.m. almost every single day. When does he sleep? And I'm like, you know, I take my naps when I can, but I really became this machine because I wanted to prove to people that, you know, I don't need this validation from some company or some brand or person to make me Quicksilva, the party kingpin. And you know, years and years and years of hard work, dedication, and consistency has led me to this point I'm at today. My foundation, I have a foundation called the Silver Lining Foundation. It was started by me and my wife, Ashley, some years ago. And the reason why we started the Silver Lining Foundation was because, like I said, at the age of 18, I didn't have any parents. My mom passed when I was 10, and my dad passed when I was 18. My wife, both her parents are living, but her dad is in her life. So she looks at it like, I lost a dad. So we started the foundation for people that lost parents, and not just physical loss. If your dad or mom is incarcerated for life, you've lost a parent. If your dad is a deadbeat dad, you've lost a parent. If, in my case, if your parents passed away or your parents got killed or whatever the case may be, you lost a parent. So our foundation was geared towards kids who've lost parents because we've always done a lot of foundation and charity work, but we noticed all the foundation and charities were kind of the same thing. So it was, whether it was HIV and AIDS, or it was childhood obesity, or it was cancer research, everybody was kind of building the same foundations around the same type of things. Not saying those things aren't important, they're just as important, if not more important, but we noticed there were no foundations geared towards what we went through. So we let's start a foundation that's geared towards kids that lost parents, to show them that life continues, because so many young people lose a mom or dad, or not like me, both, and you feel as though your life is over. You kind of give up on life, or you go left because your excuse is, my dad wasn't in my life, or my mom wasn't here to help raise me. And I always say that's an scapegoat, because you can still become anything you want to be if you dedicate your life to it and believe you can. And I always wanted people to look at my career and my life and my wife's life to see that just because you've lost a parent doesn't mean you can't still become successful. And then when I see young people who aren't doing certain things and their excuse is always, well, my dad wasn't in my life, I say, that's very important. I'm a dad now, so I know how important it is for your dad and mom to be in your life. But if they're not in your life, don't make that your only excuse for going left, if that makes sense. So that was me and Ashley's main goal for starting the Silver Lining Foundation. And like you say, to take it a step further on showing people, that was kind of our mission statement. We wanted to show people that life continues, and not just that life continues, anything is possible. You take a guy like Quicksilva, who's come from every hardship you could think of, from name it, I've been through it bad, losing both parents, we ain't talk about buying my house when I turned 21, when I got that radio station job. I settled in my house on Wednesday. On Friday, the station went off the air. I was unemployed 3 days after buying my first house. I mean, and I still maintained and kept my house and hustled, and my life still continued. So when I tell people these things, it's not me bragging about all I've been through. It's that it's showing you that I'm no different than anybody else. And if anything, I've had a harder life than you. You got both parents and was given these things, and now you want to be a hustler, or now you want to be a gangster or a drug dealer, or whatever the case may be, when you had so many opportunities and you have the resources and people to push you that I didn't have, and I still did it, and I'm still doing it. So that was always the reason. It isn't a thing where I want to be glorified for all I'm doing right now. It's really that I want to show people that anything's possible. Anything's possible with the three things I said: hard work, dedication, and consistency. And you can do anything you want, and don't ever give up on life and make your excuse because I didn't have parents. Who is the party kingpin now from the guy who I booed back in 1990? Man, I always say I'm living a dream. I'm living a dream because in 1990, when I got booed, you couldn't have told me that the life I have today was even possible. One, because, like you say, where I'm from, you just don't become this. Like it's almost far-fetched that I thought. I remember Biggie had a line: if you're from the hood, either you got a wicked jump shot or you sold crack rock. If you didn't do those two, you would never make it out the hood. That was really what we thought, because growing up in my neighborhood, the drug dealers had all the money and the girls, and then you had one or two people every now and then that played football or basketball that got out. Everybody else, you were there, and not just you, your family. It became repetitive to the point that generation after generation, you stayed in the hood. I mean, it was what it was. It was the norm. So for me to be in this predicament where I am now, where I'm one of the biggest DJs in the country, one of the most successful DJs financially and career-wise in the country, I wouldn't even dreamed it. I think with me, the biggest thing was knowing that I wanted this so bad, and I think that's why I never gave up. Even though when I had hardship after hardship, I couldn't give up because I didn't have a plan B. A lot of people, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of people say nowadays you have to have a plan B. Now that I'm successful, I have other things that I've invested in, but coming on my path, I thought I couldn't have a plan B because if I made plan B an option, it actually might happen. I wanted plan A for Quicksilva to be this worldwide DJ so bad, I dedicated my life to it. And I honestly believe, what worked for me might not work for everybody, but that was my A, B, and C. This is all I know, this is all I want, and I have to achieve it. So every time I got knocked down, I got back up because it was like, I don't want to get knocked down and let me now revert to plan B because maybe A is not for me. This is what I want, and this is all I know. And that's what's kind of helped me to stay on this path to what I call greatness, and why I'm living this life that I have now. I'm touring all over the country. I'm 5-6 states a week. It's all this was something that I dreamed of that I didn't think was possible, but now I'm glad it's here, and I'm glad that all my hard work and all my sacrifice over the years is starting to pay off. Do I think I'm there yet? Some people say I am. I don't think I am. I think there's always room for growth, and I think the moment that you stop thinking there's room for growth is when you kind of peak. And I've won more awards than you can think of, from East Coast DJ of the Year to last year the Global Spin Awards, which is our Grammys. I got National Club DJ of the Year. I got Breakthrough DJ of the Year. I mean, I'm an award-winning DJ from locally to nationally to globally now, but I'm still not content. And I think that's what's helped me to maintain this level of success, is because so many people, you get a little bit of success, or you get a taste of fame or stardom or a certain amount of money, and in your mind, I've made it. I still don't think I've made it. I still, I always use Jay-Z as a reference when he say, I've been a millionaire for years. I'm tired of this. I want $1 billion now. That's my mentality. I don't care how many awards, how much money, or how many parties I DJ. I want more until I feel as though now I'm done. And in my mind, I always say things start with mindset first. Your mind has to think something before your heart and soul can believe it. And in my mind, I believe that there's still so much more for Quicksilva, the brand. Quicksilva the man, Quicksilva the DJ, Quicksilva the dad and husband. There's so much more I want for my life and for my family's life. That's why I'm still working. Even though I'm so-called successful now, I'm still working like I'm still that 10-year-old. Because I remember what that felt like. I never want to feel that feeling again, and I never want my family to feel that feeling again. So that's why I'm so adamant about continuing to work as hard as I work and build myself and brand more, because I really want to become this iconic symbol almost.